The first case is Operation Absolute Resolve, January 3, 2026, 1:01 a.m. Eastern Time. U.S. Special Operations Forces breached the perimeter of Fuerte Tiuna military complex in Caracas, Venezuela. Their target, President Nicolás Maduro. Task Force Southern Spear had deployed over 150 aircraft from 20 bases across the Western Hemisphere. Delta Force operators approached on foot while EA-18G Growlers fired AGM-88 HARM missiles at Venezuelan S-300VM radar sites. The strikes were surgical, only fire control nodes and command radars. No carpet bombing. At 1:50 a.m. local time, Venezuela's air defense systems activated. Residents in southern Caracas reported explosions and fireballs lighting the sky. Between 2 and 2:30 a.m., a cyber attack collapsed the power grid across southern Caracas. Streetlights went dark. Security cameras stopped recording. Delta Force used night vision optics. At 2:01 a.m., operators breached Maduro's reinforced safe house 3 levels underground. A gunfight erupted. Cuban security personnel protecting the inner perimeter resisted. 6 minutes later, both Maduro and his wife Celia Flores were in American custody. Maduro had been shot in the leg during the struggle. Flores suffered head trauma from physical restraint. By 3:29 a.m., MH-60 Blackhawks reported feet wet over the Caribbean, transporting both prisoners to USS Iwo Jima. 57 people died in the operation, 32 Cuban security personnel, 23 Venezuelan military, and 2 civilians. 7 American soldiers were wounded, 5 returned to duty. The U.S. government deployed 27,000 troops, a carrier strike group, strategic bombers, and cyber warfare capabilities to serve an arrest warrant. At Maduro's arraignment in Manhattan federal court, he declared, "I am the president of Venezuela. I consider myself a prisoner of war. I was captured at my home in Caracas." Judge Alvin Hellerstein rejected POW status. The U.S. classified the operation as law enforcement, not war. The $50 million bounty for information leading to Maduro's capture became meaningless. The U.S. government captured him without any informant. Maduro remains detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. His next court appearance is scheduled for March 17, 2026. The Venezuelan Supreme Court swore in Vice President Delcy Rodriguez as acting president within 24 hours. The body survived after the head was cut off. The second case is Operation Red Dawn, December 13, 2003, 8:30 p.m. Baghdad time. U.S. soldiers from the 4th Infantry Division's 1st Brigade Combat Team surrounded a farmhouse near Ad-Dar, south of Tikrit, Iraq. Task Force 121 had been tracking Saddam Hussein for 8 months. An Iraqi-American translator known as Samir had provided the final location intelligence. The target was a mud brick farmhouse on a sheep farm. Soldiers searched 2 huts, found nothing. Then Samir noticed disturbed earth near an orange tree. They pulled back a styrofoam panel covered with dirt, bricks, and an old rug. Underneath, a hole, 6 to 8 feet deep, barely wide enough for one person. A plastic PVC pipe provided ventilation with a small fan attached. The hole was designated Spider Hole in military reports. A soldier looked down with a flashlight. Saddam Hussein sat at the bottom, beard long and matted, hair wild. He looked, as one soldier later described, like a disheveled elf. The soldier shouted, "President Bush sends his regards." They pulled him out. He did not resist. A soldier struck him with an M4 rifle butt during the restraint. Medical reports noted minor abrasions. DNA samples were taken immediately and matched against samples from his dead sons, Uday and Qusay, killed 5 months earlier. Saddam owned a Glock 18C pistol, one of the most dangerous handguns in existence, capable of full automatic fire. The weapon was loaded but had no round in the chamber. He never fired it. Soldiers also recovered 2 AK-47 rifles and $750,000 in cash from a nearby hut. President George W. Bush kept the Glock 18C as a personal trophy. He displayed it in the Oval Office and showed it to visitors. The weapon is now housed at the George W. Bush Presidential Library. The man who invaded Iraq claiming weapons of mass destruction ended up keeping a handgun as proof of victory. The man who once lived in gold-plated palaces with solid gold faucets was found in a dirt hole on a sheep farm. The third case is Operation Just Cause. December 20th, 1989. U.S. forces invaded Panama with 27,000 troops to capture one man, Manuel Noriega. He fled to the Vatican's diplomatic mission in Panama City. The papal nunciature provided diplomatic sanctuary. U.S. troops could not enter. General Maxwell Thurman, commander of Southcom, ordered the 4th Psychological Operations Group to deploy AN/UIH-6A speakers. These were 450-watt battlefield loudspeakers designed to project commands across combat zones. Soldiers mounted them on Humvees and positioned them around the building. They played rock music continuously, 24 hours per day. The playlist included Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses, Panama by Van Halen, I Fought the Law by The Clash, and Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix. The volume exceeded 100 decibels at the walls. Windows shook, glass vibrated. Noriega was known to hate rock music. He preferred opera. He was also deeply superstitious. The psychological warfare unit selected songs with threatening or mocking lyrics. If I Had a Rocket Launcher by Bruce Cockburn, You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC. The music played for 3 days straight from December 27th to 29th. Then stopped after Vatican officials protested, but the operation continued with noise harassment at lower volumes. 10 days after entering the nunciature on January 3, 1990, Noriega surrendered. The United States reported 202 Panamanian civilians killed. The Panamanian government estimated 400 to 500. An independent commission of inquiry concluded between 3,000 and 4,000 civilians died, mostly from excessive firepower in the El Corrillo neighborhood, which burned to the ground. The official number is 15 to 20 times lower than the independent estimate. In United States versus Noriega, a federal judge ruled that Noriega was a prisoner of war under the Geneva Conventions. He received POW status, which entitled him to special detention conditions at FCY Miami, a private cell with phone and television privileges. Thousands of Panamanians died in the invasion to capture him. None got trials, none got privileges. Noriega served 17 years and died in 2017. His 4th case is the Baghdad airport strike, January 3, 2020, 12:47 a.m. local time. A convoy of 2 vehicles departed Baghdad International Airport on the access road, one Toyota Avalon, one Hyundai Starex. An MQ-9 Reaper drone tracked them from 7 miles overhead. A pilot in Nevada, 7,000 miles away, watched his screen. The target was Qasem Soleimani, commander of Iran's Quds Force. He had just arrived on a commercial flight from Damascus. Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, deputy commander of Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, picked him up. Iraqi officials later said Soleimani was carrying a diplomatic message from Saudi Arabia. He was on a peace mission. President Trump had selected the most extreme option from a menu of strike plans. The Reaper launched 2 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. Flight time, 8 seconds. The first missile hit Soleimani's Toyota through the roof. The explosion buckled the frame, shattered windows, and lifted the vehicle off the ground. The second missile struck the Hyundai a fraction of a second later. Both vehicles exploded and burned. 10 people died. 8 passengers and 2 drivers. Iraqi investigators described the scene in reports. We were collecting pieces. Bodies were torn apart and burned beyond facial recognition. Soleimani's identity was confirmed by a severed hand found at the site. On one finger, a large silver ring set with a dark red stone. The stone was carnelian, called a keek in Islamic tradition. Religious Shia Muslims wear these rings as a sunnah practice. This particular ring was reportedly a gift from Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Soleimani was a major general in uniform representing a sovereign state. He was traveling openly to meet Iraq's prime minister to deliver a diplomatic message. The United States used the Authorization for Use of Military Force, designed for non-state terrorist actors, to assassinate him. The ring that symbolized his faith became the forensic evidence that confirmed his death. Iran retaliated 5 days later by launching ballistic missiles at U.S. bases in Iraq. The ring was returned to his family in a sealed box. It was the only piece that remained intact. The 5th case is the Lumumba assassination, January 17, 1961. Patrice Lumumba, the first democratically elected prime minister of independent Congo, was executed by firing squad in Katanga province. 4 days later, on January 21st, Belgian Police Commissioner Gerard Soete was ordered to destroy the evidence. Soete and his brother dug up 3 bodies from shallow graves, Lumumba and 2 aides, Maurice Mpolo and Joseph Okito. They had been buried temporarily after execution. Now, they needed to disappear completely. Soete brought hacksaws, axes, and 200 liters of concentrated sulfuric acid in 44-gallon drums. The work took an entire afternoon and evening. They dismembered the bodies into pieces small enough to fit in the drums. Skulls were crushed with hammers. The acid dissolved flesh into what Soete later described as a mass of mucus. Remaining bone fragments were ground to powder and scattered. Throughout the process, Soweto and his team drank whiskey continuously. The smell was overwhelming. Before destroying Lumumba's skull, Soweto used pliers to extract 2 teeth. One had a gold cap. He kept the gold-capped tooth in a matchbox as a souvenir. He carried it for 61 years. Soweto lived undisturbed in Belgium. In 1999, he appeared on television and displayed the tooth and a bullet from the execution as memorabilia. He faced no charges at that time. He died in 2000. Belgian authorities seized the tooth from his daughter in 2016. They returned it to Lumumba's family in 2022. The Congolese government held a state funeral. The body of a national hero was one tooth recovered from an acid drum. The tooth was placed in a gold-lined coffin and buried with full honors. The man who ordered Africa's independence destroyed was turned into mucus and dust. His killer kept a tooth as a souvenir for 6 decades. Belgium returned the tooth 61 years after the murder. Congo buried a tooth. The 6th case is the Chilean coup. September 11, 1973. Chilean military forces surrounded La Moneda Palace in Santiago. Inside, President Salvador Allende, who had been democratically elected 3 years earlier on a socialist platform. The military demanded his resignation and offered him safe passage into exile. Allende refused. He made a final radio address at 9:10 a.m. "I will not resign. I will repay with my life the loyalty of the people." At 11:52 a.m., Hawker Hunter jets attacked the palace with rockets and bombs. Fires broke out across multiple floors. Soldiers advanced with tanks and automatic weapons. Allende retreated to the Independence Hall on the 2nd floor. He carried an AK-47 rifle, a gift from Fidel Castro. A gold plate on the stock bore an inscription, "To my good friend Salvador, from Fidel," who tries to achieve the same goals by different means. The irony was explicit. Castro took power through armed revolution, Allende through democratic elections. Around 1:30 p.m., as soldiers closed in, Allende sat down, positioned the rifle between his legs with the barrel under his chin, and pulled the trigger on full automatic. 2 bullets fired. The top of his skull and brain matter exploded upward. Gunpowder residue on his hands confirmed he pulled the trigger himself. His body was found with the AK-47 beside him. An autopsy in 2011, 38 years later, confirmed suicide. The report noted the weapon was set to automatic fire, and both rounds entered under the chin and exited through the top of the skull. Medical examiners found no evidence of torture or execution-style wounds. The man who devoted his life to achieving socialism through peaceful, democratic means died by the weapon that symbolized violent revolution. The rifle meant to represent armed struggle became the instrument of a peaceful president's death. The AK-47 is now in a museum. The gold inscription is still attached. September 11, 1973 was the day Chilean democracy burned, 28 years before the world knew another September 11th. The 7th case is the Gaddafi killing. October 20th, 2011. A convoy fled Sirte, Libya, attempting to break through rebel lines. Muammar Gaddafi, who called himself King of Kings of Africa, was in one of the vehicles. French Mirage fighters spotted the convoy. U.S. Predator drones fired Hellfire missiles. The convoy exploded. Gaddafi survived the initial strike. He and several guards ran from the burning vehicles and crawled into 2 concrete drainage pipes under the highway. The pipes were full of trash, sand, and filthy water. Rebel fighters from Misrata found them. They pulled Gaddafi out. He was alive, bleeding, confused. A fighter grabbed his gold-plated Browning high-power pistol and held it up as a trophy. Cell phone videos captured what happened next. Fighters beat him with rifles and fists. One fighter sodomized him with a bayonet or metal rod. Another shot him in the abdomen at close range. A final shot to the head killed him. The National Transitional Council announced Gaddafi died from crossfire during transport to a hospital. Cell phone footage showed this was false. The videos documented a summary execution. Human Rights Watch investigators later confirmed Gaddafi was executed after capture, which constitutes a war crime. UN Security Council Resolution 1973 had authorized NATO intervention under responsibility to protect civilians. The humanitarian mission became a regime change operation. NATO provided the airstrikes that stopped Gaddafi's convoy. Rebel forces on the ground executed him without trial. The man who lived in gold-plated palaces and luxury tents ended his life hiding in a drainage pipe filled with garbage, beaten and sexually assaulted before being shot in the head like an animal. His gold pistol is in a museum somewhere. His body was displayed in a meat freezer in Misrata for 4 days before being buried in a secret grave in the desert. These are 7 times the United States attacked foreign presidents. If you want a part 2, let me know. I am 7 Frog. Sleep well.